Okay, so right now what I'm going to do is show you a technique that I found to help me get rid of my analog mixing gear and to mix fully in the box. Of course, still using analog gear for recording. Check this out. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you a song. I'm going to A-B it without the technique and then with the technique. So this is it without the technique first. Now, I know what some of you may be saying. That technique or that feeling is subtle. If you're listening on speakers or headphones, good ones for that, you'll notice this very unique character difference. One, I'm noticing a more clear stereo image. Things feel more separated. I'm able to kind of pinpoint where things are a little bit more. And also I'm noticing a warmth, quote unquote, which I know that's a word we all kind of disdain a little bit, and a fullness that I'm getting to the record. Now, all of these great things that I'm getting out of the technique all come down to one thing. When it looks at my headroom from a peak standpoint, as far as how much louder is this being perceived from a meter standpoint, this is a difference of about 0.5, 0.3 dB. So this is what was the big turning point for me. When I noticed that I was able to get more of that separation, more of that loudness, more of that clarity, and more of that fullness from it, that is exactly what I was getting, or what I liked about my analog equipment that I was getting out of my music and my mixes, as opposed to in the box. But with this technique, I found a way to get all of that, increase the perceived volume of the entire record, and not eat up a bunch of headroom in the process. Reason why I feel like eating up a bunch of headroom is the game changer for me is because coming down the line, am I being fooled? Is it just louder? And when I seen and used this technique and found this preset that I actually put in and found a way to get all that juice, all that perceived volume, fullness, et cetera, without it eating so much headroom, I knew I stumbled onto something that I felt like was going to be perfect for myself. And I'm going to show you it. And let's get right to it. Okay, so long story short, the plugin that I'm using is the Mixhead plugin from Make Believe Studios. So long story short, how am I setting this up? Before I even get into the preset itself, how am I setting this up? My entire session, right, goes to these 8 stems, kind of like a summing mixer. This was my mentality around it. The 8 stems, or the summing mixer, is as follows. All my drums, all my bass stuff, all my music too. Why do I have 2 music buses? Well, sometimes I feel like, and this is how I had it on my summing amp before on my analog side, when I'm mixing, sometimes I have a piano and then I have a pad. Both of these instruments are playing at the same time. So what I would do is I would usually create a second music aux to create a little bit more separation between those 2 signals for the most part. So anytime I have 2 instruments that are more or less playing at the same time, a violin and a piano playing at the same time, I said, okay, well, I'm gonna put the violin in this music aux and the piano in that music aux. And now I'm getting, quote unquote, a little bit more separation out of the 2. So just keep in mind, that's why I have 2 music auxes. To each his own, if, choose whatever works for you. Next, I have lead vocal stuff. So that's all my lead vocals, including ad-libs. We can discuss why I have the ad-libs and the lead vocal stuff, but that's a story for another day. But just know all my lead vocal material is coming into this particular aux. Next is background vocals, self-explanatory. All the backgrounds, harmonies, and things of that nature go to this aux. Next, I have the effects outs. The effects outs are basically all of my time-based effects. That's delays, reverbs, all those kinds of things go into this singular aux. I also do enjoy having this aux separate and having control over it, because now sometimes when I feel like my reverbs or delays is causing too much mud, I can literally go to this aux, roll off with not a hard cut, but rather a shelf to just kind of ease up on some of that muddy range. Whole nother tutorial. Next, we have the sound effects aux, and what that sound effects aux is basically all the swooshes, impacts, those kinds of sounds that are in the session. So that's the setup. 8 auxes or 8 stems stereo of my entire mix. Now, On these 8 stems, I'm putting the mix head plugin on, like so. On the mix head, this is the preset that I've chosen or that I've created. I have the output gain at -5. I have the drive at 6. I have the IPS or the tape speed at 15. I have the high frequency adjust at 2. And that's it. Now, let me just solo my drums by itself and let you take a listen to what the AB of that sound is in particular. So without first. So to me, just in the drum sound itself, just hearing that saturation on it, I feel like I'm just getting a little bit more separation in the drum sound itself. I feel like the cymbals are sustaining a bit more. The tails are a little bit more pristine. There's more fullness in the sound, and all without eating a bunch of headroom up. I feel like I'm getting once again, all those things that I loved about analog gear, I'm really getting out of this particular preset that I have. One of the secrets in this preset in particular is the tape speed being 15. Shout out my guy, Young Guru as well. I just had a conversation with him about this, and he schooled me even more on this and kind of helped me understand why I like the sound of the 15 IPS on the tape speed. 15 to me has I don't want to say better, but it has a feeling in the low end or the low mids that I really enjoy. It has a fullness to the sound, and that's why I've landed on 15 IPS as far as the tape speed with the entire preset that I've created. Granted, you could try 30 IPS, you could try even 3.75 IPS that it has on here, but I found that 15 gave me that fullness as well as just kind of punch that I liked out of the entire mix and the sound in general. Use that to your discretion, but just know that was probably the biggest breakthrough in just being able to go to 15 IPS and just hear that fullness of the entire sound. It just really has a wonderful sound. I love 15 IPS. Use your own discretion. I'd love to hear your opinions on it. The next thing was the high frequency adjust. Now, here's the thing about the high frequency adjust, and please correct me if I'm wrong, make believe. But basically, when I'm using the high frequency adjust, it allows me to, how can you say, lean more bright or lean more dark, if that makes any sense with that. Just in layman's terms, for me personally, as far as what my ear told me is, when I went to and put the high frequency adjust more to 2, I got a little bit more clarity out of the sound. Feels like it's giving me a little bit more brightness and kind of gearing towards that. The beautiful thing about it is, since it's tape and I'm using 15 IPS, I felt like 15 IPS was making the sound a bit more dark, which was cool. I was fine with that because I was getting a little bit more fullness. But of course, being a modern person, right, I wanted a little bit more high end as well. So this was kind of like my balance between, I want that fullness and warmth that analog gear gives me, but I still want that modern feel and touch of clarity and brightness and top end that I get pretty much in the digital space. So this was that balance and why I came to 2 on the high frequency adjust. And that was it. So this is the preset in general. That's how I set it up. And it's on every single stem. Same preset. Now, at first, and sometimes I'm still experimenting, I think to myself, well, it's the same preset on every single stem. Is it truly different depending on the sound and things of that nature? And should I be tweaking each stem to be a little different? Well, I started to think to myself, peep this. Look at the drive level on the drums versus the drive level on, let's say, the vocals. So let's open this one up like so. The vocals is on the bottom, and I'll put the drum ones at the top. I'm also going to unmute all of this stuff, and then let's take a listen. So I have the drums at the top and the vocals, as far as the lead vocals, at the bottom as far as the stem. Pay attention to the drive level between both of them.
Que tú me tienes loco más, ya no me importa las demás. Si no es contigo no quiero nada, solo quiero darte todo y más. Porque tú me tienes loco más.
So when I'm looking at it, obviously the drive level on the drums is much higher than the drive level on the vocals. Inherently, yes, it's drums. It's fuller. There's going to be a lot more transient stuff, and it's just going to punch a little bit more. And typically, in some cases, when it comes to genres, specific stuff, those drums are probably going to be a bit louder from a headroom standpoint than the vocal sometimes, not all the time. So the way that the plugin is being driven as far as how much saturation and how much drive is being pushed into it is different from every single stem. So that's when I said to myself, oh, I can just pretty much have the same preset locked up, and I feel like I'm going to get different results because I'm driving each one of them differently. They're being driven with different sonics. For instance, is the vocal stem giving me a bunch of 60 hertz? No. Is the drum stem giving me a bunch of 60 hertz? Yes. So in my brain, I said to myself, I'm getting a little bit different of a saturation from the drums versus the vocals. That's why I set it up that way and felt like I'm cool. I'm not going to tweak it. And for instance, I love the sound I've gotten out of it thus far. One last thing I'm going to show you as far as the mindset that I have behind this is the headroom thing that I kind of brought up. What I'm going to do is, and I have nothing on the mix bus for the purposes of this tutorial. So I took everything on my mix bus off. No limiting, no nothing. So we're just hearing pretty much the stems. Also, no, these 8 aux stems are feeding the mix bus, the 2-track mix bus. After these 8 auxes are there, they're feeding the 2-track mix bus. I took everything off my mix bus for the purposes of the tutorial. So we could just hear just what that sound is sounding like. Let's look at the peak before and after of this. Remember when I told you about how it feels fuller, more clarity, a little bit more punch and things of that nature without eating up so much headroom? I'm going to show you the A/B of that and show you myself what it's doing from a headroom standpoint. So I'm going to turn all this stuff off as far as this. Okay, so all of them are off. Let's look at what the peaks of this particular song was before the mixhead preset and plugins were put on the stems.
Ya no me importa las demás. Si no es contigo no quiero nada. Solo quiero darte todo y más. Porque tú me tienes loco más. Ya no me importa las demás. Yo solo quiero una oportunidad. Esta patilla no la pienses más.
Okay, so those, as far as before the plugin, the preset, it's hitting at about negative 4.8 on the peak. And now with the preset on, it's hitting at this.
Que tú me tienes loco más. Ya no me importa las demás. Si no es contigo no quiero nada. Solo quiero darte todo y más. Porque tú me tienes loco más. Ya no me importa las demás. Yo solo quiero una oportunidad.
So before it was hitting at about negative 4.8 on that true peak, and now it's hitting about negative 4.1 on the true peak, which is about a 0.7 dB difference. Now granted, yes, a little bit of headroom, but nonetheless, what I'm getting out of that isn't this massive jump as far as the peak. And I'm also aware that some of those transients are being accentuated a little bit more. That's why I'm probably getting a little bit more of that peak information that's coming into it. Now, when I hear that difference, I'll take that. The sacrifice or the headroom difference between A and B, I'm not mad at all. Granted, I can go and turn it down half a dB for the most part and be at dang near the same thing. But as far as that clarity and width and all those things that I'm getting, I am super happy with without eating up so much headroom. So I'm making sure I'm just not fooling myself with a bunch of volume as opposed to it jumping 3 dB and going, whoa, this sounds amazing. But literally a half dB perhaps difference between the two. But I can feel that difference as far as that fullness, that punch, that clarity, that separation, and it made me super happy. So once again, and I want to clarify, I am not saying that this particular preset or this thing is pretty much replacing analog gear and all other stuff. I have so much fun using analog gear. It's just that in my workflow, as of recent, I've needed to switch over to a workflow that I can be more nimble, that I can be fast, and to be honest, offline bouncing is amazing when you don't have the analog gear in the way of that as far as those bounces and stuff like that. So it just really significantly helped me to be able to mix more and just to move faster, especially when clients need stuff, just my own stuff, and that's it. So if you are using analog gear, kudos to you, amazing. I am all for it. I still love gear, and I still believe that no matter what it is, technique-wise that you use, as long as that finished product makes that other person happy as far as your client or yourself, who's wrong here? So once again, just showing you my technique as far as what has helped me to kind of get to be fully in the box. I've been enjoying the sound of it, and I hope you do too. Yeah, thank y'all for being here. And like I said, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, until next time, y'all.